Welcome to Saturday versus Sunday. I'm Jeff Dover. With me is John Barbin. Let's talk football.
Yeah, we're talking the AFC wildcard games, starting just with the two on Saturday, Chargers, Texans. And man, it took me a while to figure out how to even talk about this one. It was you started off thinking it was one thing, and boy, did it not turn out to be whatever that was.
It's exactly one of my first notes here. I said it's a tale of two games, really.
Yeah, totally.
Like the first, it started with the Chargers doing exactly what we thought they would, like trying to run the ball, really good defense, 6-0, dominating the time of possession. And I was like, yep, this is exactly how we thought it was going to go. Right. And then Stroud had a different idea.
Right. And the Texans defense also had a different idea.
Yeah, true.
They were getting after him. Is this the quintessential definition of a team unraveling in the second half?
That's a great question. I mean, for sure, it's the definition of the quarterback unraveling, like and then also the team. So I think it's both because it's really crazy how Herbert had 3 interceptions all season and had 4 yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, oh boy, was this ever bad. So my thought was, okay, so this is how I wanted to start. I didn't know what to think of this game, so I was just going to do the play chart, like the drives, and kind of illustrate how strange it was. So we start off a 10-play, 57-yard drive with the Chargers for a field goal. 5 minutes off the clock. That's a good drive, right?
It's an excellent drive. That's what they want to do.
Yeah, bummer that they finished just with a field goal, but doesn't matter. This is a good start to the game.
You'll take like 8 minutes or 9 minutes of possession or whatever it was in a field goal any day.
It was 5.5, 57 yards in a field goal. That's great. But you'll always do that, right? Chew up the clock, get some points. And then the Texans first play fumble turnover, right? Second drive, 6 plays, only 12 yards, so they didn't go anywhere, and a field goal. So that's good that they got the fumble recovery, but it's bad that they only moved it 12 yards with such an opportunity. They didn't have far to go, and all they could muster up was a field goal. So that was almost like a win for the Texans there, I would say. Then the Texans next play is just 3 and out.
Yes.
Okay. So now
that was huge. That was
huge.
Like, yeah.
All right. So moving along, next drive for the Chargers is 4 plays, 2 yards, and a punt.
Yeah.
So okay. All right. So nothing there. Then the Texans 5 plays, 26 yards, punt. So it looks like the Chargers are in control, but letting them hang around in here. Chargers next play 5 yards, 33 yards, punt. So okay, so they started off with some momentum, but the Texans defense really settled in here, and you could see that line was Chargers offensive line was having real trouble controlling that pass rush, and the run game just starts to not really get anywhere here. So that opening drive led us to believe there was some more juice in the Chargers offense than there really was.
Yeah, and this is the point where, I mean, it's still to this point the Chargers have really dominated, you would say, the game because
there's more. Yeah,
I know, but they've dominated the game, and Houston hasn't done anything, and the Chargers are trying to run the ball, and they're not.
Right.
And this is sort of the first time where I'm like, okay, so now this feels like Houston has an avenue to get back in it because the Chargers want to run the ball and they can't. And that's only going to be more of a problem if this keeps going. That's the best Houston's defensive line has looked all season.
Oh boy.
Like they looked great.
Autry, Hunter, Will Anderson. I mean, everything was working. So at this point, okay, so then the Chargers go 5 plays, 33 yards, punt. Then the Houston 3 plays and an interception. So they're still not getting anywhere. It looks awful. And their run game doesn't look very good at this point either.
And this also reminds me of when we were talking about Ohio State, Texas, where you're like, you're giving the other team possessions, like you're like, you can't keep doing this because someone's going to take advantage at some point.
Right. Well, and then the Chargers are like, hold my beer, first play interception. So they're just, no one wants to win this game. Like no offense wants to any part of this game at this point.
Yeah.
Then the Texans 4 plays, 15 yards, punt again. Then the Chargers 6 plays, 19 yards, another punt.
Yeah.
And so this point, nothing is going on. Nobody can do anything. Now, this is important. Absolutely nothing is happening on offense besides those 2 first drives that now almost look like an anomaly. And the second
Yeah.
one was 12 yards. It's not even a drive.
Yes.
So all we have is punts and interceptions for like an hour. That's all we're getting. Then out of nowhere, the Texans go 13 plays, 99 yards for a touchdown in 5 minutes.
Right.
It was just completely just okay. Here's a drive.
Yeah, and to me, it would all stem from the one thing. It was C.J. Stroud. It was a 3rd and 20 or something, and he ran for like 27 yards, like to get the first down. And so and then at that point, everyone was like, "Oh, we're not done. Like we can actually get going here."
Yeah,
and then they went the whole field. So
right,
that was a critical. I have one of my notes here was like that the super Stroud, like at the end of the first half, because he had a long pass. For a big completion, and he had that run, and that was, and then everyone's like, "Oh, we're gonna be okay." I think at that point,
I think so. And then right after that, then Chargers go 3 and out. Then Houston 5 plays in a field goal drive, and that's the end of the half. So they took all the momentum. I mean, if you could even say there was momentum for the Chargers, Houston took it all from them and essentially never gave it back. And that was the second half was just that's when the avalanche happens. So you could either call it the Houston avalanche or the Chargers unraveling, probably a bit of both. But to your point, Stroud running was, I think, the key here, since they were struggling to run. And as the announcers were saying, oh, they're going short pass game. They're going slants over the middle. They're just accepting what has to happen here and going for it. But really, when he chose to run, and this is in my theme of the modern quarterback has to be able to get yards. They have to be able to get critical yards with their legs. They don't have to be Lamar Jackson, but they have to be more than Matt Ryan. They just cannot stand in the pocket. That's, even though Stroud's good at that, like he's really accurate. He can hang in there. He can make all his reads. He's smart. He can tell what he's got to do. But at some point, it just isn't there. And like the quarterback position is no longer just throw the ball, and if it's not there, throw it away. Nowadays, to beat whoever you're going to be up against, you've got to be able to move, and you got to be able to pick up yards with your legs, especially critical yards. And we've heard about Justin Herbert being able to do this, but it became Stroud was the one who did it.
Yeah, and no, I think that's an excellent point. Running for that first downer when he needed to was a key thing. And I think the offense really settled into like, we're just going to take what the defense gives us, because that's how the Chargers been all season. Like they really back off a bit, keep everything in front of them. It's sort of a bend but don't break on defense. Yeah. But the Houston really figured it out at that point with a lot of the possession stuff, and on the other side, once the Chargers couldn't run the ball and Houston knew they could stop the run, then we've talked about this all season. That's a real challenge for any team in college or NFL, that when you become one-dimensional, it's a real problem. And you really saw that with the Houston defensive line, right? Because the Chargers rushed for 50 yards as a team.
50.
So you don't have to respect the run. So now you can just let loose on the defensive line and go after the quarterback, which they did. And as we said, that's the best defensive line, like Houston's defensive line has looked all season. So you can't go one-dimensional. And I think it was a combination of stuff. Chargers went one-dimensional. The Houston could run the ball. Chargers couldn't run the ball. The Stroud got a bit more confidence. The team got a bit more confidence, and then it was a landslide. It felt like at that point, like it was really crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, Houston, there was a couple of weird plays in this game. The turnover on that halfback option pass.
Oh, yeah.
And they were settling in. They'd taken the momentum back. Things were working. They were finally getting the run game going, because Houston's run game kind of sucked in the first half, but they were really getting it going in the second half. I mean, they ended up with 100 and whatever it is, 65 yards. So that's a lot when you pile them all in the second half, mostly.
No, so Mixon was the one that had that terrible fumble thing.
I know.
But after that,
he looked like he knew he needed to make up for it, and he was looked like a beast. Yes,
he was a man possessed, and and their running game, like, again, it was more effective in the second half, but he looked great. Like that's one of the best I've seen Joe Mixon look too all season, against a good defense.
Yeah, I'm going to stop short of saying give up, but boy, the Chargers looked like they were uninterested after a while in the second half on defense.
Man, I don't know.
To try to stop that run game.
The whole thing is, they were Well, what was the time of possession? Because I think it's
But
swung
they
like it.
34 and a half to 25 and a half. The
Yeah.
Texans
Well,
but all of that was in the second half.
yes, that was
It
my
was
point, right?
brutal. It
Because
was,
in the beginning it was
yes.
all Chargers, right? So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that is a long
I mean, maybe,
stretch.
yeah, yeah. I said I stopped short of it. Maybe they were just so tired. And 4 interceptions later, your defense like, I can't go back out there. Like, what do you want me to do at this point?
Yeah.
Like, we just
No,
can't keep.
they're not
Yeah.
used to the quick turnover, get back out on the field.
No.
And the Chargers aren't designed. That's not what Harbaugh wants to do. They're not
No.
designed to have a dynamic passing attack and come from behind. They're designed to get a lead, boa constrictor, like good defense. Like that's the plan for a
He
lot of
wants to do
teams.
to them what was done to him
Exactly.
today.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow, that
It's
was.
crazy that Houston was better at it than the Chargers. Like it because
I
that,
mean,
but they really were.
whether or not it's an artifact of just of this game, that Houston D line looks like the best line in the NFL. At least in that game, they sacked him 4 times. Was it something like 9 tackles for loss, a bunch of pass breakups or whatever it was. It was a bunch of sacks, the turnovers. He was under duress the whole time. Herbert couldn't run.
Mm-hmm.
If it was part of the game, wasn't in the game plan. He wasn't doing anything with his. He can run. That guy's athletic, but at no point in this game did he seem to have the time or the wherewithal to ever get any yards with his legs.
Mm-hmm. No, and this game was really like it was actually quite a dominating performance by Houston because really it was sort of that fluke play that the long pass that McConkey got like in the fourth quarter that like it was sort of the defense just wasn't in the right place like that. If you take that away, like this would have been like 30-6, like it was.
That was a funny drive. That's a 3-play drive that goes sack, 86-yard touchdown.
I know that was crazy,
and he almost got sacked on the pass. Like he hung in there, but one of the linemen was right on him.
Oh yeah,
there was some strange. And then there was that in the red zone. Houston just kept going backwards.
Mm-hmm.
They got into the red zone, and at one point they were on 2nd and 40, I think it was. And then the other team takes a offside penalty.
Yeah.
The announcer's like, "What's the record for most plays on 2nd down?"
And that was just pretty good.
Just constantly going backwards on 2nd down.
This is the 4th play on 2nd down, which is
2nd and 40. So there was all kinds of weird things that going on in this play, like that McConkey 3-play, that weird drive where he gets that touchdown. I think at that point the Houston defense might have even been feeling itself a little bit, and that safety.
Yep.
They were crushing them so badly, and everything was going their way. They were picking them off basically every drive. I think they were like, I'm going to get this one too. And that safety took, instead of just tackling him, and he was double covered, but the safeties, I mean, if the under guy is not getting it and you don't 100% have it, you can't play it like that because you get what you just got there.
No, it's crazy what a dominating game this was by Houston. When you sit back and look at it, and they had 3 turnovers. So that's really a
this could have been even more
yes.
ugly. This could have been like 45-6.
Yes.
Like it's the box score, because that to your point, that McConkey touchdown doesn't really fit.
It's kind of fluky. Like it was
fluky. I mean, he was
McConkey's great. Don't get me wrong. Like
I love that guy. We've
awesome. Talked about this on the program before that and he's fantastic. So and he needed to be because he wasn't getting much help with any of the other players.
Was he their best player? Probably, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So.
It was 9 catches for 197 yards.
Yeah.
So and the running back was 9 carries for 26 yards, and the next closest person on the receiving was 2 catches for 16 yards. So it's not even. And Herbert had 4 interceptions. So it's not even close.
Jeez. I mean, God, that is. What is with the Texans in the first round blowouts? They did this to the Browns last year too.
That's
right?
True. Yep.
So he's obviously got something going on there. D'Amico Ryans is one of the new coaches that I think everyone just is. That's a good one. You don't really know how a guy's going to turn out when he goes from coordinator to coach, but he looks like he's got things going in the right direction. I think he calls the defense too. I think
I'm not sure.
That's a good question. Well, if not, he's got his fingerprints all over that defense. If not, calls it.
No, this was a pretty big upset because the Chargers were favored at Houston, right? So that's sort of like at a neutral site. That would have been like a 6 or 7 point favorite.
Yeah.
And Houston, they started the season well, but have not looked this good. And it seems like they really put it together, which is a great time in the playoffs.
Do you think this is a bit of an anomaly game where just everything went wrong? Like some of those interceptions, like one went right through McConkey's hands. Now the pass was going pretty fast. Like he had some velocity on it and it was a little high, but he did go right through his fingers. Do you think if this could have been just a couple bounces the other way? Like you said, Houston
No.
did have 3 turnovers, or do you think this is just how this game was going?
That's a good point. You could make an argument for that, but I'm going to say no because Houston stopped the Chargers' running game.
That's a good point.
And that's what they wanted to do, right? Like we know that's all Harbaugh's ever wanted to do. He's just been at Stanford and Michigan. It's so like that's the stopping the run game. The defense was great, and and the only one that was doing anything on offense was McConkey. So like that was they did a great job with that.
Well, geez, man, what a wild game, but by the end of it. Okay, so how about Stingley too and Lassiter?
So good.
That cornerback combo, and Petrie is not there. He is whatever you call him, is the nickel corner, whatever. He's awesome too. It's too bad because this defense could look even better. But I mean, yes, the Chargers did not look good, but I like this defense. I like
Stingley's great. He was great at LSU. Like he was a high draft. Like he's always been. He's like been an amazing cover corner like his whole life. Like it, and it just went from high school, college, NFL, and he's fantastic. And it was, and you can see like in that he was, that interception was perfect, and he was in amazing position. So and same with Lassiter. So their defense looked great.
Yeah. I mean, and also the Chargers defense didn't look bad. It's just they were. I mean, there was just too many turnovers. There was too many. They were on the field for too long,
way too long in a row.
Eventually, just like in a row back, constantly. So, but
they didn't play for the first
bad.
like 10 minutes of the game, but then they played all of it after that.
Just strange.
That it was really strange.
That time of possession all piled into one half. So that's I don't know. I don't know if that kind of loss is harder to take than a closer game, because in this one, when it comes unraveled, I'm sure the Chargers fans somewhere in the fourth quarter are like, well, okay, well, this is just one of those days. Like it's kind of I don't know how they would receive a game like this versus like 32-31 on a walk-off kick.
Yeah,
maybe
it's really
feel worse. I don't know.
It's pretty concerning. It was they haven't looked. He had 4 interceptions and was sacked 4 times. Like that's bad. It was not. The defensive line really dominated. So
totally dominated, and some of those. I mean, they were coming in so fast on that drive, the Ladd McConkey touchdown drive, 3 plays. The first, they didn't even block Anderson off the edge. Like nobody.
No, how do you do that?
And the announcers, they went back on replay, and the tackle just, I think, thought somebody was coming from closer to the tackle, and I guess the rule is you always take the closer guy. You never take the wide. The wide guy's going to at least take a little bit longer to get there. But nobody was coming up the other gap, so he just blocked nobody, and Anderson went straight through. Then the very next play, same thing. The guard and the center both thought they were taking somebody else, and then I think it was Autry right up the middle. No one touched him either. Just back to back. The offensive line didn't touch anybody. And this is supposed to be Harbaugh's calling card, right? Like the idea of like win in the trenches. He lost in the trenches on both sides of the ball. So like lots of work to do there. I mean, good for them. Made the playoffs, 11-6 season. I'm sure the Chargers fans are way happier than Staley from last year. Like this is a huge turnaround. So I think the pieces are starting to come together. They obviously seems to be something still missing. There's I think it's more dynamic weapons and something about this run game. I don't think that's just the running back. I don't think Dobbins is bad, but boy, they can't run block like this team.
Well, you've talked about Quentin Johnston before too. Like he's looked good at some times and then is invisible other times. So he had 5 targets and no catches. So
I think that's a glaring miss on a draft pick, which imagine if that was a Puka Nacua caliber pick, or that you just don't know. I mean, Johnson was good, but again, you just don't know, or if this was like a Malik Neighbors or just something. I mean, he was picked high. You would expect him to be some kind of production, and it's just not there. And imagine if he actually was that caliber with the McConkey pick. Now you're talking about 2 weapons that are really hard to handle. Now you're talking about like a more and more dynamic, but it still doesn't change the fact that they can't run the ball.
Yeah. Well, I think it's if so. Okay, if we're playing Chargers GM in the offseason,
Yeah.
try to upgrade the offensive line, maybe a couple
Again,
positions,
even. Yeah.
and then get another draft pick for one of the, and then that's either like free agency or something, and then get another draft pick for a wide receiver or skill position. But they're not far. But it was a good team. So
No, yeah. I mean, the defense is good. It's just
yeah,
it's surprising that he did pick Joe Alt. He did focus on the line, and the thing they can't do is run.
yeah,
So
I know.
I don't know if it's the line coaching or development, whatever it is. There's more work to be done. Let's say it there
Yeah.
on that.
And if this Houston team is the one that goes for it, I don't know who they're going to play next. It's either Kansas City or I don't it might. But anyway, that's if they play like this, then whoever they're going to be playing is going to have their hands full.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a fun one. So come back to the channel for our review of the Ravens and
It was
Steelers
more fun
game.
than the Ravens one, right?
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah. All right. Come check that review out on the channel as well. We'll catch you later.